Yes, Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. And we'll thank the people who help us out here. Rick Jesse is our producer. Jeff Burson does the social media and the memes that we put on the website. And Ryan Penny is screening your calls today. I'm Jerry Usher with Debbie Georgiani and you. And next time you hear us, well, each of us, we're both at our respective homes right now. But Debbie, the next time people hear us, we are going to be in Birmingham.
If I make it there, I still have to pack and race to the airport. And, it's just one of those crazy things we got going. And today is our wedding anniversary, not ours, Jerry, Marty.
Right. Yeah.
Marty
Happy anniversary to you and Marty.
9 years ago. Wow. It's amazing. 9 years, a long time. And Marty and I are flying today, so that'll be fun. I'm going to tell the airline, Marty doesn't know it yet. I'm going to tell the airline that it's our anniversary and see if they embarrass Marty on the plane. What do you think? Should I do that?
He probably knows now, Debbie.
No, he's not listening.
He's not listening
packing. No, he's packing.
You got him doing the heavy work. Huh? That's good. Yeah. What the lady wants, the lady gets, right?
That's right. No, so we're going to be at the radio conference. It should be a blast, and I'm looking forward to it. And it's exciting. But Jerry, you put this topic on the calendar for today, and it really hit me kind of deeply, actually. And I think it's going to be a great discussion for us to leave here today, really having a new feeling about our spirituality. And so I would love for you to explain it to our listeners, and then I want to just share, when I was praying about it, what came to me.
Okay. Well, I think what I'll do is what we do sometimes. You do it occasionally, and so do I. I'm just going to read what I posted on the website, which is take2show.com. If we're not constantly examining our spiritual lives and making corrections along the way, we may easily fall into laxity or worse, lose our faith. Sometimes we recognize this on our own. Other times, God will impose upon us the necessary course corrections in order to keep us from falling away from Him. Has there been a time, listeners, this is for you, call in and you can talk about this. Has there been a time or an experience in your life that indicated you needed to make significant changes in your behavior and your relationship with God, maybe even some minor changes? How have you matured in your Christian faith from the time you first believed until today? That's the question we want to talk about.
Yes, yes, and yes. God is so good. He's such a loving God. He makes those corrections, and He allows the life circumstances to present themselves and to the maturity to happen, I think, for all of us to be moving forward closer to Him. And I heard it, a wise deacon said to me a couple years ago that if you're standing still on the journey towards God, you're actually losing ground. And it's really interesting, Jerry. And what came to me after pondering this topic for today was that we really, to have that daily examination of conscience, to really put ourselves in that moment and to know that every single breath we take is precious, and it's either getting us closer to God or we're going further away. And so that's what came to me, and that was my takeaway already before we even start this discussion. But I'm so curious as to what our listeners are going to say about this. So I hope you weigh in and really share with us how, what's your journey towards God? I mean, how do you do it on a daily basis? You titled it, Jerry, Recalculating Your Spiritual GPS. I love that. And I think it's important that we have our listeners weigh in. So here's the number, 833-288-EWTN. That's 1-833-288-3986.
And I'm reminded of the passage in 1 Corinthians chapter 3. St. Paul talks about how initially when he was ministering to and starting churches with the Corinthians, he says, I gave you milk, not yet solid food. You were not ready for solid food yet. And so that's an indication, right, Debbie, I think, for all of us that we do go through these phases in our spiritual walk with the Lord where we, I liken it to, oftentimes there's that honeymoon stage. I know you've been through it. I've been through it. When we first had this real living relationship with Jesus, it's kind of like a honeymoon. You never want it to end, and then a little rough patch might come, and then maybe some consolations. Then God takes you deeper in through another season of purging and so forth. And all the while, He is doing what's necessary, to bring about our holiness, but also to make sure that we get enough of the treats, if you will. I'm thinking of my dog. I was giving him treats this morning. But we get enough spiritual treats or consolations that we can look back to those and we say, I've tasted God's consolations during this dry period. I just need to hang on. So I think we all go through that. I'd love to hear what people have to say about that.
Here's the number, 1-833-288-3986. This is your show, Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and we're talking today about recalculating your spiritual GPS. We want to hear what's going on in your spiritual life. You know, where are you at? I mean, at different phases, like Jerry said. Did you get kind of lax? Were you on fire at some point? What kept you going? What did you need in your life to maybe have you wake up and realize that you wanted to go deeper? Because, you know, the ultimate goal, Jerry, is for all of us to be back with our Lord in complete union. And it's absolutely beautiful when you think about it. And the journey is a precious one. It's unique to every one of us. But I think it's also, I think it's important for us to understand what others go through so we don't feel like we're alone. You know, nobody wants to feel like they're in a dark spiritual place and say, well, what's happening to me? Am I so bad that this is happening to me? Well, we've heard that other saints have gone through this as well. And the saints' stories really do help us keep on that journey, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So here you go, folks. It's yours to hit out of the park here. 833-288-3986. If you want to describe, if you can look back over your relationship with Jesus and see times when you realized you needed to grow a little bit deeper. You needed to spend more time in prayer. Maybe you'd been blind to a particular sin pattern in your life, and through listening to Catholic radio or going to confession, maybe you became aware of something that you needed to work on and eliminate from your life. So how has your relationship with God matured and grown over the years? What were some of the ways that you were helped along that path? You know, by a godly friend, maybe challenging you, calling you on, as they say. Yeah, a spouse. Maybe you went to a retreat somewhere and you heard something and you said, wow, I've really got to go deeper with God. Let's talk about this. 833-288-3986 is the phone number.
Okay, so remember, this moves very quickly, this show, and we learn a lot. We take notes for you, but we would love for you to participate. So what you have to say is very important. So I'm going to say this, and you know who you are if you're feeling that nudge in the spirit. Now's the time to call in because you have something that we all need to hear. 833-288-3986. That's the number to call to get on your show, Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. When we come back, we're going to the phones to talk about recalculating your spiritual GPS.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. Thank you to the affiliates for carrying the program, and thanks to you, the listeners, for carrying it and actually literally making what it is every day. Phone number is 833-288-3986. We're just talking today about, have there been times in your life, in your relationship with God, maybe you fell away from the faith, maybe you stopped practicing the faith at some point because of whatever. Don't need to get detailed about it, but I think that happens to all of us. We have experiences. We maybe, like we said, get a little bit lax in our practice, our fervor for the faith, and sometimes we have something happen to us. Somebody in the church does something to us, or maybe a evangelical or fundamentalist friend will say something to us and maybe sway us out of the Catholic Church for a while. Maybe you've come back. So this is what we're talking about, and your own life experiences really are going to help somebody. There are people listening, Debbie, all the time. We say this, that people need to hear the takes of our listeners. And just want to mention too, we're going to be broadcasting live. Sorry, if you were going to say something, I didn't know.
That's okay. After you.
Okay. Well, I was just going to mention that we're broadcasting live from the EWTN radio conference. And wait a minute, I got something blocking my.
What are you doing?
Here. Can you?
Do you want to do the tent revival?
Yeah. I've got this funny thing on my document that it's covering half of it.
Okay. Well, can I do a couple little housekeeping stuff? Just
Sure.
a couple things. Okay. First off, when you were just talking about where are you on your spiritual path, on your journey, if you need to jumpstart, if you need to deepen your faith, I just have to do this, Jerry, because this is the last week to sign up, and I just wanted to do a shout out to everybody in the Denver area, ladies. With your adult daughters, please come if you're in the Denver area to this talk that I'm giving at Light of the World Roman Catholic Church in Littleton, Colorado. It's Overcoming Fear and Gaining True Peace. I really think you'll walk away a little bit changed, a little bit closer to God, a new outlook, new attitude. It's going to be really, really a great evening. So Light of the World Roman Catholic Church, please reserve your spot. They are just filling up. I'm hoping they're going to sell out, and I think it's going to be a wonderful time. It's November 27th, so you got to get in your reservation this week. So if you're listening right now, call your friends, get a bunch of ladies together and your adult daughters and bring them as well. I don't have any daughters, but I wish I did, so it'll be fun to be there. And then also I just wanted to say the 2018 Catholic Tent Revival, Saturday afternoon, 1 Eastern time. Am I seeing that correctly? 1 Eastern time on EWTN Radio Classics. Jesse Romero commissions Catholics on Patrol, cops is so appropriate for Jesse Romero, to go out on soul patrol and fight the evils of the world and spiritual weapons and tactics, SWAT. Oh, I love that. So he's taking his police work into the ministry world. I love it, and he's helping all of us. Jesse Romero is actually lives in the town next to me in Arizona, and I think he does such a wonderful job. And so the tent revivals are fascinating. I suggest everybody checks it out Saturday, 1 Eastern time.
Okay, we're going to go to your calls here, talking about recalculating your spiritual GPS, or another way to put that is, has there been a time in your life, maybe you've been a faithful person all your life to Jesus and the church, but you've had to tweak that a little bit, maybe eliminate something from your life, add more prayer, receive the sacraments more often, work on a certain virtue. We're talking about making little tweaks to our faith that help us to be the best version of ourselves and seek holiness as best we can. It's 833-288-3986. Okay, Daniel is first in Houston, listening on Guadalupe Radio. Hi, Daniel. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi. I was just inspired by just listening to all that you are talking in your show. I've always been a Catholic. I was come from a Catholic family. I was an altar boy when I was a kid, and I know that God has always been the center of my life. But when I was in my 20s, I kind of wandered off a little bit, and I'm in my 40s now. I realized that God has always been there for me, and is the center of my life. But I've always known that, and I've always come to Him. When I've had problems, He has always lifted me and got me out of trouble or any worries that I've had. But when I was 22, I got married through the church, and I divorced, and I haven't done an annulment, but I'm remarried now, but I haven't done the annulment. So this is one of the things. My kids are 5 years old and 7, and I take them to CCD classes, and we talk to them about the Lord, and we're a happy family, and we tell them the importance of faith, but it keeps me. It's really bothering me not to go receive the Eucharist every Sunday when we go to church, and I want to get the annulment, and I just want to. I guess if you can give me some advice on how to keep my faith stronger, and hopefully that can help me with my journey.
Okay, so a couple of things, Daniel, because I went through the annulment process as well. Oh goodness, about 11 years ago or 12 years ago. I can't even remember. It's been that long. But so I can relate to what the emotional aspects of it and what you're going through. So a couple things. Do you have a good person that you can talk to at the parish, a priest or a deacon or a religious or a lay leader that you can talk to give you some of that spiritual guidance to help you through while you're waiting for the annulment or going through the process of the annulment? That's first and foremost. Do you have somebody you can talk to, Daniel, at the parish?
Yes, I just got in touch with the deacon at the church, and we're trying to sit down hopefully next week to, I guess start. I don't know what steps to take, and he's going to guide me, hopefully.
Good. Okay, so share with him, Daniel, what you just shared with us, everything that's in your mind and your heart, all about the process and everything that you just said. And also share with him how you said, that God has always been the center of your life, and that you're missing this ability to be able to receive communion right now. Couple things, though, and I'm sure the deacon is going to emphasize this, that there's spiritual communion that you can partake in, and that's the beautiful prayer during Mass that you can say to ask Jesus to enter into your heart. The other thing, too, Daniel, I would... Yeah, it's beautiful. So make sure you can actually, EWTN has a beautiful spiritual communion prayer. Maybe we could post that. Rich, if you're listening, post to the EWTN spiritual communion prayer on the Take Two show website, Daniel, and you can go there and take a look at that. And make sure you say that during Mass. Every time you attend Mass, bring it with you, copy it, print it off and take it with you into Mass. The other thing too, Daniel, is I would definitely recommend getting in front of the Blessed Sacrament, spending 10, 15 minutes, if you can do an hour, spending time with Jesus. Okay, you said God is the center of your life, then spend time with him. Okay, and let him fill you during this very precious time that you have going through the annulment process. Okay, and really do the hard work that is required during this time, because everybody talks about the annulment process being a healing process. It's also a very difficult one, because you're looking back on something, a relationship that you had in your past, in your previous life, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, you have to go through everything. Was it a sacramental marriage? What went wrong? What happened? I mean, there's a lot of hard questions and a lot of things, but I will tell you this, Daniel, when you get through it, and God willing, that it is if it's God's will that it is annulled because it wasn't a sacramental marriage, then you know what? What's going to happen to you is you're going to learn so much about yourself, and it's hopefully going to deepen your faith. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think that's where the healing comes out of when people say that. So I just want to encourage you that what you're feeling is, I think, very normal and rightly so. But there's ways that you can deepen your faith along the process. What do you think, Jerry?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd love to hear what Daniel... I do have a thought to add, but Daniel, what do you think about what Debbie was sharing there?
I think it's great. It's just a feeling of fear, because I've heard, the outcome of other annulments. What if it, ultimately what I want to receive is the communion. I just want to be taken back, because I do realize that it has been a sin, and I want to get married with my wife. She's also Catholic. She was never married before, and I don't think it's fair for her, my kids. And,
right.
this Sunday, I just felt the need to go up to the altar, when everybody's receiving communion, and I asked my son for the first time. He's 7, and I said, would you like to go with me? And you just cross your arms and you receive the priest's blessing. And he was so thrilled, and I could see it in his eyes. Every night when we pray, these kids open their heart, and it's just I know that we're doing something special for them, and I know that they really are ready to start their communion. But I would love to join them too. And that's
yeah, absolutely.
That I just don't the church to say I'm not qualified to receive the again. So I don't know. I know I have to talk to the deacon about the reasons why. My marriage wasn't back in El Salvador. I'm from El Salvador, and now I live in Houston, and I haven't talked to my former wife about all of this. And I don't know if she even had started the process. I don't know. I don't know anything. So.
Well, Daniel, what I would add to what Debbie said, and I thought Debbie's been through the process, as you may know from listening to the show. I've never been married actually, so certainly haven't experienced the annulment process. But what Debbie said was very, very beautiful and very poignant and true. Very healing. It could be tough, but it can also be very, very healing. And I think you made the comment about there'd be that fear, like what if the annulment is not granted. You obviously have to go into this, saying, God, your will be done. And you have to be hopeful and prayerful and trusting in God and be prepared to live, whatever way, is required of you when that comes out, whether regarding the sacraments in your life at home and so forth. But what I wanted to add, you mentioned your children. And Daniel, we'll pray with you that if it's God's will, you get this annulment, because once you and your wife are joined sacramentally in the Catholic Church, and Debbie, you can speak to this as well, that is going to take your marriage and your family to another level, to a new dimension, because you have the grace of the sacrament of marriage, and then your kids are receiving the sacraments and all of that grace. Now that grace can be present in spite of all of that. But Debbie, I think you would agree that it's kind of like supercharged when all the sacraments are in order.
Absolutely. And Daniel, you're making all the right steps. And I just want to say, I'm so happy you're doing that, because there's a lot of folks in your age bracket who got remarried, did not get the annulment, and they say, well, we're married now, we have a family, we're just going to keep moving forward. No, you're making the right steps. You're going to see the deacon, you're going through the annulment process, you're keeping the children in the religious education, you want this to be the outcome. And what I would say, Daniel, is replace the fear with trust. Replace the fear with trust. Please do that, because fear will get you nowhere. If fear is not of God, trust in the Lord that He will keep you close to Him. Okay, please do that and keep us on the journey. We are all going to start praying for you and your entire family. You're making the right moves spiritually for your wife and for your children and for your legacy, for your family. So remember that, keep that, and stay close to Jesus. My 87-year-old mother always says that. Stay close to Jesus. Do that in the Blessed Sacrament with spiritual communion. Go up for that blessing with your son like you did. Continue the religious education. Keep going, Daniel. Keep moving forward, and you'll see the good Lord will present to you some just beautiful outcomes that I think will be great for your family. Okay?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking my call.
You're very welcome, Daniel. Thanks for listening, and thanks for calling. Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie, talking about little or big changes we have made along the way in our spiritual lives. 833-288-3986. Henry, you're going to be next, and then Clara and the others. But Debbie, I think the times that we're living in right now, I mean, it is so important. A topic like today's and what Daniel is talking about there, these things are so important. We have got to be buttoned up spiritually in our faith, in our prayer lives, because let's face it, a lot of people are fleeing the church right now because of the abuse scandals and the cover-ups. None of that is a reason to leave the church.
Right.
Okay, it's understandable. Okay,
right.
but it's not a reason, never is a reason, but still, Debbie, you can understand that. So we need to be bolstering, we need to be fortifying ourselves spiritually, especially at a time like this.
Right. But I love what Daniel's doing. I mean, look at what Daniel's doing. Jerry, you and I know of so many families that have chosen to just kind of walk away from the church's teachings and say, you know, I'm going to do it my way. Daniel's not. He's doing it the right way. And I just, let's all, the Take Two family, please pray for Daniel's entire family, that God's will be done and that they just keep getting closer and closer and closer to God. That's what the end goal should be for all of us. And I just want to stress that. I loved Daniel's call. And if Daniel's still listening, don't forget, Daniel, you have a very strong name. My oldest son is named Daniel. It means, believe it's God is my judge. So it's a beautiful, strong name. Stick with that. And this is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We're talking today about your spiritual life. And if you could help us out by calling in at 1-833-288-3986. When we come back, we'll get to your calls.
So good to have you with us. Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Jerry Usher with Debbie Georgiani and you. Hope to hear from you. 833-288-3986. Talking today about making changes to our spiritual lives, our relationship with God, our prayer lives, moral lives. If you've had any seasons in your life where you had to kind of recalculate that spiritual GPS, do weigh in at 833-288-3986. And Debbie and I will be live from the annual Catholic Radio Conference tomorrow and Friday, so we look forward to that. And Henry, thank you for your patience in Toledo, Ohio. You have Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on Annunciation Radio. Hi, Henry.
Hi, how are you?
Doing pretty well. I am. Debbie, you doing well?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Hi, Henry.
Hi. So I'm getting near the end of my lunch break, so I guess I'll have to be kind of quick. But I just wanted to say that I'm in my mid-20s or so, and I've moved around quite a bit. And during one of those moves, I had a great environment, I guess you could say. A bunch of friends that were all, strong Catholics, a good church where I could go to Eucharistic adoration pretty often. And it really helped my faith, coming out of, younger, adolescent years, very strong at the time. But then eventually I moved away from there. And it takes some time to get those relationships going again in your new city. Mm-hmm. and ended up losing a lot of that, and lost a lot of steam in my faith as well. I felt kind of disconnected from everything.
Right.
And thankfully, I feel like I'm coming out of that now finally.
Mm-hmm.
But it was real hard for a while. I kind of felt like maybe some of my new friends too weren't the best influences. So I ended up being a little bit more sinful too, and felt disconnected in that way. But in that same time, I think it helped me learn a lot about my faith, where I hesitate to call it like a dark night of the soul kind of thing, but something similar where you
Right.
feel disconnected and you learn maybe not to rely on always feeling good in your faith.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so a
If
couple
that
things.
makes sense.
Oh yeah, totally. And you started off saying you're in your mid-20s, so that it's understandable. I mean, it happens in your age group all the time. And so but you recognize it, and that's the beautiful thing, Henry. You recognize it, that you need that support system around you, that like-mindedness around you to help you, to support you in your faith. So I encourage you to continue to seek out those people, those friends around you that can lift you up in your faith life and support you, and you guys can you can all journey together, and that's a beautiful thing. But when you find yourself being kind of alone on the path, okay, what my remedy is to get out there and be of service. Jump into ministry. Offer your services, maybe either teaching at the parish or get involved or do something of a service nature, Henry, because you have a lot to offer. Your group, your age group especially, you guys need to be those teachers. You need to be out there helping the younger ones understand what it means to be a strong and faithful Catholic. I don't know if you have any time to do that. Now, I just want to share something. A lot of your age group hesitates to volunteer because they think they're going to be putting up tables and taking down chairs and doing things, and it's going to be 10 hours a week and it's too much time. It's not true. You can tell them how much time you can give. But I would encourage you to get into the parish ministry life and see if you can be of service. Have you done that already, or would you be open to that?
Well, yeah, actually, as it turns out, I think one of the things that helped was I joined my parish's choir, and it's now an active, cantor and everything.
Yep. Perfect. And keep doing that. And maybe helping the younger ones, maybe get into the teen group. Maybe, the teens, they have beautiful voices, but they're so, they feel like everybody's staring at them and they can't do it. Maybe you could be of an encouragement. I have a really good friend who's a music minister here in Arizona, and he teaches the teens all the time to get up and to be able to sing. And maybe you could do that. Maybe you can encourage them. We have to help our young ones, and we need role models that are just a little bit older than them, so that they can look up to you, Henry, and they can say, I want to be like Henry when I get older. That they need that. Okay, I'm getting of the age of in my 50s where they're looking at me thinking, she's already 1 foot in the grave, but not you. And that's important for you to do that kind of ministry work. Wouldn't you agree, Jerry? Absolutely.
And Henry, you mentioned something about, kind of a dark period. You use that term dark night of the soul. For those who aren't familiar with that, the great saints and mystics and spiritual writers talk about just these periods that we go through in our lives where it feels like God either is not even there, or sometimes we feel abandoned by God. Remember, Jesus on the cross said, my God, why have you forsaken me? And we can have these periods of very, very deep dryness, but also this darkness. And that's the way that the great spiritual saints and writers describe it. And it's always for a purpose, and God willing, we come out of that into a springtime. And it's interesting, a house that I live in right now and have for the last 6 years, out in the back, there's one of each grapefruit, lemon, and orange trees, and they don't produce a lot of fruit because they haven't been tended to for a long time. But I did have them, pruned a little bit and cut back, and it's amazing. The fruit that just explodes out of them after that happens. And so that has brought some of these Bible passages back to life. Jesus talks about the pruning and bearing good fruit and so forth. So Henry, and everybody, if we go through a dark time, a dry period in our lives, we need to hang on sometimes, and we need to surround ourselves with support and friends. But we have to trust and hope that we're gonna come out of that, and we're gonna come into a beautiful, glorious new journey with God. So, anyway, Henry, any other thoughts? What do you think?
No, yeah, those are both real good thoughts to put in there too. And yeah, I definitely agree with the pruning idea. It brings new life to your faith once you come out of it. It's hard at the time though. And I never really thought about that either with the how much of a role model kind of a role I'm in right now. It's that you can have a lot of people looking up to you that you don't really realize.
Oh, it's huge. I can tell you that's the biggest thing with the teens right now. They don't have anybody to look up to, and that's why they're choosing Hollywood and all these other things to try and model themselves after, and they can't. And so they need Henrys out there to really help them on the path of holiness. And you can be that instrument, and it's amazing. It's an amazing position you're in. And so I pray you do take up that ministry with something in the junior high or high school, because you know what, the gifts will be coming back to you though, Henry, because these kids are awesome. They just give you so much more than you can give them, and it's an incredible journey when you do it together. And I have a lot of godchildren out there because of that. I started when I was your age, and I have all these godchildren and confirmation candidates and everybody, and it's just amazing. And I've had them for 30 years, and it's an incredible a journey. And I offer that, that extend that invitation to so many to jump into ministry. But people hesitate, Henry, and you called, so I don't believe there's any accident to that. I believe that this is your timing. So keep us posted and let us know how it goes if you decide to jump in.
Yeah, that's real awesome how much you can do with it, and that you've had such a good experience. I'll definitely let you know, but yeah, I gotta get going here. Back to my work.
Sorry, Henry, we don't want to get you fired.
Yeah.
But the email address for Henry and everyone is take2, it's the numeral 2, take2 at EWTN.com. Debbie and I personally reply to as many emails as we can. Sometimes we read them, and if you're just saying, communicating something to us, and we don't necessarily sense that there's a need to reply, we try to anyway, but sometimes we don't, because, Debbie, we get so many emails. We're always maybe a few days behind, but we try and stay on top of that. So
it's a good problem to have, but it's there's only two of us. We need like a ton of us.
Yeah, right.
But thanks again, Henry. And then others have been calling in, like Clara, and others have been calling and asking. Jerry, you and I have mentioned the healing priest that we've talked about a couple times on the show. I just wanted to say it again in case Ryan wasn't able to get to Clara and the others. It's Father Thomas Bobby Emperil. And I hope Emperil, is that how you say it, Jerry? He's a
sounds
priest.
Good to me.
He's a priest from India. You can look him up on YouTube. He is just phenomenal. And he's very, very popular. And just what he has to say about Scripture really changed my spiritual life. So if that can help you, Father Bobby Emperil.
Okay. Taking your calls and talking today about adjusting your spiritual life, your prayer life, your walk with Jesus along the way. And we're going to go next to Zinnia. Zinnia is in Woodbridge, Virginia, listening on Guadalupe Radio Network. Hi, Zinnia. Thanks for calling.
Hi, how are you doing?
Doing okay. How are you?
Good. What you said just hit me, and I know she was saying about, let the Holy Spirit move you, and I just felt like this is something I had to call for. Several years back, I had an extreme conversion after I read St. Maria Faustina's diary, and it was beautiful, just that change that happened in my life. But it slowly started, I started, falling back into no longer praying and just going cold again. And I started having a holy hour every week and just praying God for conversion for myself and for my spouse. And during that time, I continued my holy hour, but I never thought God was going to do this to me, to convert. And he allowed something just so horrific. I found out, my husband was having an affair, and it was the most painful thing in the whole wide world. But let me tell you, God used that moment to wake both of us up, because at that moment that everything just kind of exploded, it was like I tell him, it's like a St. Paul conversion. He went from one extreme to the other, because my husband at that moment was like hit down like a ton of bricks, just slapped down. He completely changed, and he started praying. every morning he made this little altar in the bathroom for himself, where he was praying and kneeling and doing a lot of sacrifices. And that led me to start also praying in the mornings. And it slowly started leading back to, our working back into the community of the church and praying together and doing the rosary every night, without failing. So the Lord used something just so painful, but he turned it into something so beautiful that now I'm just like, wow, Lord, how I wouldn't ever want to do that again. But I can also see how he just made something so beautiful come out of it, which would be using my husband pretty much as that head of the house, where we can all look up to now and say, wow, he does this, wakes up every morning to go to Mass at 6:30. Never, ever would he have done that before. But that encourages me, too, to wake up, every morning and go to Mass at 9 after I've dropped all the children off. So those changes and how God has allowed us to go through this horrible experience.
Right. Zinnia, that is just an amazing story, and there's so many ways, so many directions I could go in, and just offering a couple of comments. But I would say, you were reading Saint Faustina's diary at the time about mercy, and mercy was just poured into your heart and into your husband's heart in just a very, very beautiful way. And a lot of wives, could have reacted differently than you did. It sounds like that, you were very patient and compassionate toward your husband, and that certainly was a conduit for the graces to come into your life, but through you into his heart. And now you've got this beautiful, we were talking earlier about the grace of a sacramental marriage. Now you have that now, and of course you had it before, but you took the path, the high road on this one. And Debbie, I really think that is how God used the whole situation to bring grace into her husband's heart. Now look at the beautiful marriage and family life that they have.
Yeah, and you just said that it was such a painful experience, and I can relate to that because unfortunately that happened to me many years ago, and it is I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. It was horrible. I mean, just so unbearable. Yeah. But listen to what you said, Zinnia. You said you were deep in your prayer life, but then it went cold, and now you had this painful experience, but out of it came this beautiful outcome where now you're praying together. Now you are a family that is journeying closer to God. There's no big secret. I mean, let's face it. Okay, let's all face it. God wants us to be close. He wants us to be close to him. Okay, he's gonna allow certain things to happen, even if they're super painful, because he wants that. He wants us to draw so close to him. That's why when people go through divorce or a betrayal or something of that nature that is so painful, okay, I remember the priest that said to me, the very first priest said to me, Debbie, this is a turning point in your life. You're either going to get closer to God or you're going to go further away. It's that simple.
I agree.
Yep. And look at the beauty that came out of this painful situation. And that should give hope to others who are going through a very difficult time right now. You've got to figure out what is going to get you closer to God. Would you agree with that, Zinnia?
I definitely would agree with that. If just patience and the pain, it gets better. Mm-hmm. It does. And then you'll finally be able to turn around. Everyone would tell me, not everyone, because I didn't tell everyone, but those who knew would tell me, just wait. You'll see within a couple of years, you'll be able to look back. And time did not go fast enough. But now that I can step back and just look at that and say, wow, Lord, I can see how you were just carrying me throughout this whole thing and just saying patience and be calm and prudent and just love,
Yeah. Well,
Watch
you guys
me work.
Yeah, you guys are in a great place, but I just want to prepare you because God will use your family in extraordinary ways. Be open to that. Because you guys are on a good path right now and you can help others. And God is looking for those people that are going to help others get out of these dark places we're in, or just toss in the towel every time something goes wrong in a marriage or something. So be open to that. Maybe you and your husband could be helping in some kind of ministry, preparing couples for marriage or something. You never know. So just want to put that out there.
Definitely,
Okay.
I'll be praying about that.
Okay.
Thank you, Zinnia, for your phone call and your beautiful, beautiful testimony. And yeah, if you're still listening, Zinnia, another thing, and it goes along with what Debbie was saying, is just maybe spiritually adopt a couple or multiple couples who are having marital problems, and things are maybe going in a direction different than they went for you and your husband, which is just a great gift from God, because marriage and the family are so much under attack right now. So, Zinnia, please, you and your husband, please be praying for marriages everywhere. And Debbie, I just want to mention too, if anybody's, you talked to one of our callers earlier about getting involved in service work and volunteering and so forth. And here's something anybody can do right from your own home, in your own city, your own region. You can become an EWTN media missionary. And what that is, you're just somebody who works with local newspapers, your diocesan paper if you have one, parishes in your area, to get bulletin announcements, to get information about programming, events that are coming up. You can maybe talk to your pastor or go to different events and have a table set up with EWTN brochures and flyers and information about programming and so forth. If this is something that you would like to do, maybe you've recently retired and you're saying, what am I going to do with my time? Well, maybe you can become an EWTN media missionary, and you can find out more at EWTNmissionaries.com. That's the place to go.
Okay, up next is Janet, and Janet is in Florida on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Janet. Thanks for waiting, and welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Thank you for taking my call, first off. I've been listening to the program, I guess, since you came on, most of it today, and a little bit ago Daniel was on, and he was talking about annulments and how he took his son up for a blessing, and how he misses communion. I met my husband several years ago now, back in 2012, and at the time I was in the Pentecostal church, having been raised in the Pentecostal faith, but I was not really going anywhere, and spiritually was just floundering. I remember one day, my husband looked at me, he said, I have to go. He says, I've got to get ready for church. And I just said, well, can I go with you? And I'll never forget that he just stopped in his tracks. He turned around and looked at me, and he said, you do know I'm Catholic, right? And I said, yeah, I know you're Catholic. I've been to Catholic churches before in services, and I had been. And so he invited me to go with him that day. And as I sat there, the Spirit of God just really worked. I mean, it was like the homily was like there was no one else there but me. And I'm thinking, okay, you can direct your conversation to other people now. You don't have to just be talking to me, but tears just ran down my face the whole time. And after that, I looked forward to, because the Spirit of God was so present in my life. And I started going to church with him, and then started going to RCIA classes. But I had been married and divorced 3 times, and my husband had lost his wife after several decades. She developed cancer and passed away, unfortunately. But I had met him after he met his wife. So my husband fulfilled his marriage vows. Now he's free to get married. And I have 3 divorces on the table. And we know that in order for us to be able to get married in the church and our marriage to be blessed, I've got to go through 3 annulments. And so I began the annulment process. And what I did was I looked up to find out what constitutes a valid marriage and what was missing in the marriages that I had previously been in. And the first one, my husband had not been baptized. That was one of the situations. And also I remember I was 17. I asked my dad, do I still have to get married? And he said yes. So I knew that I was making a mistake at 17. I was not prepared for married life. I was able to get that one. That was was pretty easy. The second one, because I had not gotten an annulment from my first husband, but he told me after we got married that he didn't want children, and I desperately wanted children. So that was a break in our marriage as far as making our marriage valid. And then on my third husband, there was abuse of my children that was going on, and it just, again, I was in a situation where I was facing being homeless or get married, and I got married. So, there are things that if you look at what constitutes a valid marriage in the church, and you look at your marriages, you can find a lot of times the faults and errors, and to include those in the application for your annulment process, because otherwise they don't know these things about your marriages. My annulments were able to go through all three of them. It took 2 years. I always believed that our marriage, our meeting, was just by chance, and that
Janet,
really
forgive me, Janet, for the sake of time, Janet. We got about a minute and a half here. We're going to hear the closing music for the show. Just wanted to comment on that, and you're making so many very good points for anyone listening. If you have been through a divorce, a separation, maybe you've remarried, and you really want to, like Daniel, our earlier caller, wants to receive the sacraments, get that annulment. It's not a guarantee. The church is the determiner of that. But as Janet has pointed out, there are very oftentimes, Debbie, as you know, there are things what are called impediments to a sacramental marriage. There are valid reasons for the church to look at that and say there was not full consent of the will, or there was not a total unification of the person's mind with the teachings of the church and requirements and so forth. So it is a very hopeful and, as you said, Debbie, a healing process to go through. And Janet, we're very and heart, but we're very, very grateful, Janet, that you've had that opportunity, and now it sounds like you do have that very, very beautiful sacramental marriage in the church, which is a great gift from God.
It is, and it sounds like you wanted to give those encouraging words to Daniel, and the others too are calling in, Marcos and Dax and the others. Thanks so much. We're sorry we can't get to you. Please email us, because it sounds like you have stories you wanted to share, maybe in continuing of giving prayer support to Daniel and his family, and that's a wonderful thing. That's what the Take Two family is all about. So you can always email us at take2, the number 2 at EWTN.com. And Jerry, another great discussion by our listeners, the Take Two family. I learned so much, and I'll tell you what, it just makes you want to just get deeper and deeper in your faith.
Well, you may want to get deeper and deeper in your faith even more after listening tomorrow. Because we're going to throw out this question for discussion. Are we living in the end times? Okay, we look at what's going on in the church. We look at what's going on politically, socially, morally, culturally. Are we living in the end times? We know that Jesus said, we know not the day nor the hour. So, we're not able to make a certain determination on that. But we just want your thoughts on kind of the signs of the times that we're living in right now. We'll talk about that tomorrow from the radio conference.
That's kind of a heavy topic for the radio conference, but let's take it on. I'm game. Let's do it. Okay, I'm heading off to the airport, and you are as well, Jerry. Safe traveling. I'll see you in Alabama. Can't wait for the radio conference. And dear listeners, thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Thanks for the prayers. We need them. Keep them coming, and we just hope and pray you have a beautiful and blessed day. See you real soon.